Welcome to Season 2 of Path of the Brush, powered by Ultra Pro. Let's sling some paint. Whoa, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Path of the Brush. I'm your host Rick here on Gen Con TV, and as I said in the intro there, we are powered by Ultra Pro. Not just because they make some really cool products, but they make real cool products that can protect your miniatures with their character clamps. You should go over to ultrapro.com and check it out. We're going to go ahead and talk about what we're going to do today. We don't have a guest. This is a day of painting, as we've the last couple episodes have been. But next week we'll be here with a guest from Weird. We're really excited about it. But today we're going to be painting some of the Star Wars Shatterpoint terrain. So if you're familiar with Star Wars Shatterpoint, the new Atomic Mass Games miniature skirmish based in the Star Wars universe, you're going to be excited for this. If you're a fan of any of the Star Wars IP, this is a really fun game. The artwork on all of the product is amazing. And like I said, we're going to be working on some terrain. I primed it already. It's ready to roll. I'm going to open up this book here just so I have a little bit of a reference piece for the particular terrain bit I'm working on. All right, I'm just going to put it in front of me here so it's out of camera, I hope, for the overhead. And then we've got Will here in studio with me, and Mark is at his house remotely making sure everything, the two of them are making sure all the dials are turned to the right levels and making me look pretty on camera, because the camera adds +5 charisma points. So at least that's what I've heard. So again, hey, what's up? What's up, everybody? I hope everybody's having a good weekend, or will have a good weekend, because it's only Wednesday. It's hump day. Oof. I'm already flabbergasted at how time flies, because I've been working all week on opening a game store this Friday. So it's been wild. All right. So I'm going to be using a lot of the silvers, because what's really cool about this particular terrain piece is, if you look here on the overhead, we're going to look at this photo here, and you see that it's got this like sandstony coloration on a lot of it, but the rest of it's like this metallic, like a muted metallic, and the primer I used is almost the exact color of the base terrain piece. So I'm really excited about that, because it took away about 30 steps. All right, so let's get to it. I'm going to work on these little pieces here on the sides, and I'm really excited to be able to play this game with painted terrain and at the store. We're going to set it up as a demo for people to be able to come in and see it and be able to play it and get a flavor of it. And hopefully we can build a little bit of a community around this game, because I think that's one of the greatest things about our hobby, not just painting, not in gaming, but overall, the hobby of building, painting, playing, right, builds community. And I'm a big fan of being a part of it. I've been a part of the gaming community for a very long time, and it's one of the most welcoming. There are outlying things about it that can be off-putting for many, but for the most part, I've always experienced a very welcoming community around the table, and I hope that folks have felt the same way around my table, that they feel welcome, and that they enjoy their time. It's kind of neat. As I've been doing this, I've been getting a lot of messages from folks from school, like when I was in high school back in the 80s, the late 1900s, the night, and when it was the Wild West, right? And talking about how, the first time they ever played a tabletop role-playing game was with me, and that they are now playing with their kids, and they have a long-standing group of gamers that get together, and as time permits, because we all know how that works out. Let's schedule a time, and it never really comes to fruition, uh, as we all would hope every time on time. Unlike the episodes of Path of the Brush, right? Every time on time. uh, but yeah, so for everybody that's watching, we're really excited to have you here. We hope that you will, you know, join us in the chat. Let us know who's watching. Give us some shout outs. Tell us your favorite non core Star Wars character, right? So I don't want, we all know that we all like Han Solo and Luke Skywalker and Yoda, Princess Leia, Chewbacca, C3PO, R2D2. But who's the outlying character that you really like from any iteration of the Star Wars universe? From the movies to the Clone Wars to Star Wars Rebels to the new Ahsoka show, uh, the shorts. I think it was called Star Wars Visions, that was on Disney Plus. If you have a favorite character, tell us who it is. Hey, what's up, Shinky Pime? HK-47, best robot. What robot was that? This HK-47. Where would we have seen that particular murder bot? Because that just sounds like a murder bot. But Kyle Katarn is a close second. Kyle Katarn was from the comic books, right? I feel like that was a comic book character or expanded universe character, but I could be wrong. I usually am. So let us know who your favorite non-core Star Wars character is. I will give a hint to everybody watching. My favorite Star Wars character that isn't a core character dies in the Emperor's chambers before Mace Windu gets thrown out a window. It's one of the Jedi in that scene. If you can guess who it is, I will give you a virtual high five. I know, it's crazy. Assassin Droid in the Old Republic. Kyle was in comics and the game Jedi Academy 2. Nice. Very cool. So yeah, if you can guess who my favorite character is, uh, and what's funny is if you know anything about me and like who my favorite like Marvel superhero is, or character, not necessarily a superhero, but a character in the Marvel universe. There is a long running theme in characters that I find to be entertaining and fun, and the character that I like in Star Wars kind of follows that same pattern. So I really like them in the Clone Wars cartoons as well. Dang it! That's right. It is Kit Fisto, but I think the individual who wrote that knew that. Did It is Kit Fisto. He is my favorite. Uh, and one of the things that I really liked about him is in the Clone Wars animated series, for those of you that may have seen it, there is a scene where he's fighting and he gets dropped into the water because he is a aquatic race, and that is where my affinity comes from. Is I like aquatic characters, um, and he's like floating in the water, and his tentacle things on his head are like free floating in the water, and he just gives a smile because he just blows up some imperial of like vessel, and he kind of smiles at the clone troopers or whatever that are with him, and it was just like that was awesome. He's finding pure joy in the chaos he's creating. So yeah, Kit Fisto is one of my favorite characters. I mean, non-canon, he is my favorite. I wish they were, they they would have done more content around some of those characters, um, just so we could have more, history and all that fun stuff. There's another one that I really liked, and I can't remember his name, but he was a Tuscan Raider in the comic books, and probably in, but I don't remember his name. I thought his backstory was really cool. Yeah, everybody loves meat dreadlocks. They're so cool. The thing is, I don't think we ever heard Kit Fisto speak, so I think we're stuck with like kind of giving him our own imaginary voice of what we think he would sound like, and um, I I don't know. Maybe he has an accent like, hopefully not like Jar Jar. That would just be painful. But I just feel like he's got like this like, you know calm, you know uh, almost like a surfer kind of vibe in his mannerisms. Because Kit Fisto rocks. At least, that's just one of them that I like. There's also, I'm really digging the two Fallen Jedi, or the Fallen Jedi from the Ahsoka show, the one that's played by Ray Stevens right now. And I think his character has got a really interesting, like, viewpoint on the Force. And his apprentice is, for no better phrase, a BA, the straight BA. You know, I would not want to upset that individual because they are aggressive. So we'll leave them to their angst. But I kind of find it interesting that when it also comes to terrain for the Star Wars universe, such as this particular piece, even if I just put this on a table, I think people would go, if they didn't know it was for a Star Wars game, they would know it's for a Star Wars game, because there is like a distinct visual uh I don't know what the word is. Will, what word am I looking for? Aesthetic. Yes, thank you. There's a visual aesthetic that just screams Star Wars, right? It has oddly really clean lines for the most part on all of it, but then it is given these wires that are just kind of like haphazardly put on here, twisted up a- amongst each other into a junction box. And it's just like, oh, okay, scary. All right. I'm going to give it about a minute, and then I'm going to take a second. I'm going to share this. And if you're watching and you're so inclined to share this stream on your socials, on Facebook, or in a miniature painting group that you are a part of, that you think would find even a monicum of joy in the ASMR of my voice, welcome today to another episode of Painting Miniatures for the Star Wars Universe. I'm your host, Rick. This is Path of the Brush. It's a very calming opportunity, and I hope that nobody falls asleep at my voice. But if you do fall asleep, dream of Twi'leks and Mandalorians, because they are awesome. I also find, the 6 degrees of separation that occurs in film and the industry. And right now, again, with Ahsoka, there is a very fun 6 degrees of separation, but it's literally just 1 degree. That the actress who's playing Harrison Dula, the Twi'lek general and captain of the Ghost from Star Wars Rebels, is married to Ewan McGregor, who played Obi-Wan Kenobi. And that is just freaking awesome. And apparently, their real life child together has also been in a Star Wars franchise piece, but I don't recall what that was. Um, so I think that's just awesome. If you, for those watching, because there's a few people in the chat, or I'm sorry, that are showing up as watching the program. Uh, what is the era of Star Wars that you would most want to be, like, if you existed in the Star Wars universe? Which era would you want to be in? Would you want to be in the old Republic, the new Republic, the the time of the Empire, um, the new time of the New Order? Is that what it's called? The New Order, First Order. Yeah. Which one would you want to be around in, and why? I want to know why. I think Will, who's in the background, is going to let us know, and then Mark is also going to let us know, right, Mark? I think Mark fell asleep. I hit him with my ASMR voice. Ooh, okay. Whatever era lets you fly a B-wing. That's a good ship. Dang, that's a good answer, man. Very cool. What was this? Are you watching the Ahsoka show right now? What was the ships that were like chasing Sabine in the first episode down that long strip of road, and when she's on the speeder bike, and they're like, turn around, Sabine. What were those? Those were slick. They weren't quite A wings. They were, but their markings were definitely not like that yellow and whatever, but they were similar. Yeah. Oh yeah. So much good stuff. And Ahsoka's ship is really cool too. I am actually really enjoying the show. The episode 5 that dropped yesterday was great. It was great. I know there's a lot of people out there that aren't fans of the of Filoni's world between worlds concept. That at the end of episode 4 we find Ahsoka in the world between worlds. I think it's a really neat force twist, if you will. So, and it can actually, I think, also push a story in directions that not having it would limit the story potential push. That's just my thoughts. Because they used it very well in the Rebels series with Ezra Miller, or I'm sorry, Ezra Bridger. Ezra Miller's the Flash, isn't it? Yeah, and it looks like, based on we should be seeing at least Thrawn soon. I hope it's not one of those. We know who the actor is who's playing him. They announced that already. But are we gonna have to suffer to the end of the series before he like comes out of the shadows and is like, well, what if it isn't our old friend Fulcrum? You know, and then it'll be to be continued in season 2, and you're like, no, that's that would be a little frustrating, but it wouldn't be as frustrating as the ends of a lot of shows where the hero gets shot. What that's the cliffhanger in a lot of shows. Someone got shot. Will they have survived it? Who shot him? Who shot JR? Who shot Mr. Burns? There's always that cliffhanger. And then there's so many good Star Wars things on the horizon, right? That they've announced, and I'm looking forward to um, the other new animated stuff that they're putting out or that they announced. And I'm a big fan of Bad Batch, or as a lot of people call it, the Dad Batch. And I think it's cute and definitely worth watching. Okay, so there's that right there on that side. I don't know if I want to make that the same gray, because almost everything is it's either this brown color, the sandstone color, or gray, minus these light fixtures have like an orange or a blue um, coloring to them. But I think I want to maybe play a little bit with some different colors on the metallics, and then to kind of weather this, I'm going to use an orange, like an orangish wash with the speed paint. Granted, I can't use what is that nuclear blossom or whatever. Yeah, it's an orange, and that was like it's a nice orange. I have to get a new bottle of it. Um, it's a nice orange, and I think that would have been a good wash to put in like the cracks and crevices of this, because there's definitely that kind of vibe in this, or maybe even just a soft tone wash. But there's definitely like an orange over like a subtle orange discoloration around the edges and in the cracks based on the paint jobs that are in the booklet here for reference. Um, and I kind of feel like that is aligned with how like this would look on Tatooine, because everything eventually returns to Tatooine, right? It it may not be the center of the universe; it's just out there on the outer rim, in the on the galaxy's edge. But it, the way it is written into so many story arcs, it definitely seems like it's the center of the universe. All right, just gonna put a bigger brush on this roof piece here. I'm just really excited to be able to play this with painted terrain and enjoy that. I know a lot of people are just going, "Why aren't you just airbrushing it?" And I have to be like, "Oh, an airbrush just wouldn't be the same uh, vibe on this show, right? Because even though it is a brush in its own term, it would be loud, and that would just be the worst, just the worst. So I'd rather you be able to not have to hear the of the air pump, the air compressor. Yeah, and it's wild is like the community is jumping in and jumping off and jumping in and jumping off, breaking our hearts, not hanging out with us. Maybe next time. But has anybody watching played or even demoed Shatterpoint? And if you have, what is your opinion? I would love to know what your thoughts are on the game. Um, I thought it has a really interesting mechanic with the cards that you're flipping a card. It tells you which troop or character's actions are going to go. And then if you flip a Shatterpoint card, then you could activate any character, even one that had just activated. All right. So in the demo, they had the card set up so that, like, Anakin jumps into the middle of a fray, does an action or a combat action, and then you flip the next card and boom, it's Anakin again, and he just decimates everything around him because he's such a BA himself. He's OP, BA and OP. That's what he is. And I'd almost hazard another adjective: intense. He's intense. And for those of you that haven't seen Ahsoka yet, remember that word. Or Ahsoka fifth episode. Remember that word. Intense. The whole episode's about sand. It's a dissertation on sand and how all life's lessons can be learned through the trials of pain that sand provides. You know, the secrets of the universe are unlocked in how one deals with the annoyances of sand. It's also kind of interesting that, again, you have Tatooine, desert planet, and then what was the one from Force Awakens? Uh, Nobody wants to go to. Starts with a J. Jakku, was it Jakku? I don't want to go back to Jakku. You know, nobody does, but she did. She was waiting for them, waiting for her family to come and return to her. But I'm curious as to where the fixation with desert planets exists, because even in like um, Rogue One, right? The planet that gets blown up and where um, where the Empire is mining the kyber crystals, right? And that's where you meet Donnie Yen's character and the blind Jedi, or he's not a Jedi, but the blind. Um, I don't even know what you would call his like archetype or character class if it were to be a role playing game scenario. He's kind of like a prophet seer. I don't know. A temple. Yeah, yeah. He was a temple. Yeah, temple guard. Um, that was also, or at least it appeared to be a desert planet. But granted, I mean, you have Endor, you have Coruscant, which is just a techno planet basically at this point. But yeah, just gonna. I know that a lot of other painters would probably again tell me that not just airbrush, but if you're gonna brush on here, you use an even bigger brush than what I'm currently using. Uh, I just don't want to. No offense to anybody. It's just I know it's probably mind numbing just to watch paint dry and hear my voice. But you know, if it is, uh, I think it might even build a little character. you know, uh, but I like the idea of chatting with everybody that shows up, and so if you are watching, please chat with us. Um, tell us like what you're enjoying on TV or podcasts, or make some recommendations. I'm kind of getting new into the whole podcast thing, as far as like listening to podcasts, and I would love some recommendations on some things I should be listening to. Um, so please drop some bombs on me. I like stuff that involves history, science, uh, stuff like that. especially like military history. I like that kind of stuff. And of course, pop culture. You know, so please share share your fandoms with us so that we can investigate and go, ooh, that's for me too, or not so much for me, but I can see where it is interesting to others. All right, there we go. Gotta put some more paint in my palette here. This so what I'm using right now, and again, this is a big shout out, thank you to our sponsor, the Army Painter. It's we're not necessarily using their speed paints today, which is their newest product, the Speed Paint 2.0. We're just using some of their um, classic metallics. Right now, I am putting down gunmetal, which is, in all honesty, one of my favorite metallics amongst any line of paint is gunmetal, and the Army painted gunmetal is my favorite. I literally wish that they made like Elmer's glue, like the large Elmer's glue bottles, filled with just this color that I could be like and just paint with it. It's so good. Um, but again, when you talk about aesthetics, I think like brushed gunmetal is already a cool color, anyways. Like if you get a set of metallic dice and they're just brushed gunmetal, sick. Um, I just dig them. They're so good. The Expanse has kept me enamored for a while now. The Expanse, I watched that. I think I watched the first two seasons. I think it's two seasons in, right? Or five seasons. Good Lord. Oof. All right. So I think I watched the first two seasons, and the Belters are my favorite. They are so interesting um, because everything else is just political posturing between Mars and Earth, right? At least in the first two seasons. Are they going to go to war over resources, and who's pushing whose buttons? But when it comes to like space combat, not in ships, just like hand to hand combat, the Belters got it. They live in the space. They've adapted to it. Uh, they're a little bit elongated in their bone structure and stuff. It's kind of interesting, but they understand the zero G combat scene, and I think that is just super cool. Zero G's is where it's at, ladies and gentlemen. And there's also the Expanse role playing game that came out a while back, which I think is also kind of cool. Did it really? Oh, wow. Nice. See, that's why you got to love nerd culture, right? So much interesting, cool stuff can be spawned from it because there's so many creatives in our space. And with that creativity, the concept of world building is exciting to a lot of us, right? Almost as if you were like someone who was like the doodle, right? And do world building when they do that with new characters and everything. I think it's just brilliant. I know that a lot of my like world building attempts would probably be just, tropey. But I think if you find joy in it, and tropes are tropes for a reason, right? Yeah, for sure. Heck yeah. I like the hero's journey is one of my favorite like tropes, and when it comes to like a storytelling thing, right? for everybody watching, what is your favorite kind of story trope, if you will, or archetype? Because isn't there like, when it comes to that, there's like seven or nine staple archetype tropes to storytelling. Mm, I don't think so. I- if they did, we would have a lot more original content. But you might be right. Okay, kind of makes me want to look it up and be like, what is the answer here? I also feel like Mark fell asleep. He hasn't said hi to us. There's like no love there. He's like, oh, if I'm not in the studio, I don't have to talk to these guys. He's
All
asleep.
right, I'm breaking in. I'm coming in for a
There
minute
it
here.
is. Oh, oh,
You guys
so
not hear me before?
nope.
I was popping in. I've been talking to you guys for a while.
Have you? I don't think that's true.
There's the rags to riches. There's the quest. There's the voyage and return. There's comedy, tragedy, or tragedy. I can't talk today. And rebirth. So
Okay. How many is that? Seven?
six. That's six.
Six?
Yeah.
Because
There's
I,
more than that though. I feel
yeah,
like.
yeah. Well, I feel like the hero's journey is one of them, right? Where a tragedy occurs, they would either become the hero or a villain. They pick up the path of the hero. They get to a certain plateau, and then they have to go through another like major um life event that inspires them to move to where they take on the full role of the hero and defeat the main antagonist in the story, right? And that might just be the journey, which I think is one of the ones you mentioned, is just the journey,
Yeah, the quest.
the quest.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So there's lots of, each one of those can produce, thousands of ideas, but at its heart, it's all the same. When if you're doing the quest, it's all the same. Just different characters with different challenges on a quest to do either something good or evil, right? Preferably good.
This is another one. This one's got rags to riches, riches to rags.
Okay.
Man in the hall, a man in the hole, the fall, then rise. The Icarus, Freytag's pyramid, rise then fall. The Cinderella, rise then fall then rise, and then the Oedipus, fall then rise then fall. So some other ones.
Oh, that's kind of weird.
Deep, yeah, that's real deep there, right?
Yeah, that is wild. What's the last movie you watched, Will and Mark? Like actually a full on feature film. And why would you not? Right? Nunchucks are awesome. How about you, Mark?
It's kind of embarrassing. It's that new Adam Sandler one, like you're not invited to my bat mitzvah. That just came out on Netflix. It doesn't even count. It's my wife put it on, and it's more of a teeny bop movie, but
But it is a full length movie, right? It's it's
it's a
it's
full length. It is that it had the rise and fall and then rise again.
okay. All right. Well, those are all interesting.
Yeah.
RRR. What is that? Is that the Indian? Okay. Okay. All right. That's the one where the guys are in the shields. They run up the tree. They get launched into the castle. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I watched the live action Little Mermaid
How was
recently.
that?
I actually really enjoyed it. I think that the young lady that plays Ariel did an amazing job. Um, I thought it was cool to see King Triton played by the guy who was No Home for Old Men, right? That guy, I can never, I don't know what his name is, and I probably can't pronounce it anyways.
But Anthony Perdue or whatever.
Something like that, yeah. But he was awesome. It was a little interesting seeing McCarty, the comedian female, play Ursula. But like the previous live action movies where they basically take the animated and do shot for shot scenes just with live action, the add in music that they did on this, I was not particularly a fan of because you would be sitting there and if you've watched the animated series as many times as I have, because Little Mermaid, when it comes to like Disney classics at this point, is one of my favorite movies. The soundtrack is amazing. "Kiss the Girl" is one of my favorite songs in Disney.
Under the Sea.
"Under the Sea" is amazing,
Dingle
and
hoppers is like, a trope, like a joke.
it's a trope. Um, but when they would throw in these little twists of new musical add-ins, and you're already like really into like the pacing of the movie based on the shot for shot stuff, and you're into it, and oh yeah, that's exactly like it was. That's really cool how it visually and cinematically looks differently, but is the same thing. It kind of took me out of the moment in in the movie, and I don't like when that happens. um but overall I was entertained, and even though there was even some shot for shot differences in the movie for, like the wedding of Ursula and Eric wasn't on a ship at the end. It was on like a cliff facing balcony at the castle, which it's is what it is. It was but it was still good. Um, so I would recommend it. People go take a look at it and watch it. Like I said, it was very entertaining.
About the series you're watching. I started watching that live action One Piece. That was a pretty good adaptation. I didn't really watch it. I just started getting into it. I
Hmm.
know the card game's real popular. Obviously, uh, the anime that's been around for years and years and years. There's like how many is it?
Over 1,000 episodes. I
Yeah,
know
that's
that.
wild, right?
Yeah. Um, I watched the One Piece animated or live action series, and so my youngest son is a huge fan of One Piece, the animated series, huge fan, and he wanted me to get into watching the animated series. And I just couldn't. I was like, there's just something about it that I just couldn't latch onto, and I think it's the voice acting and like the yelling and that occurs like and like they don't have to yell, right? And that
It's
just might
obnoxious.
again that just made me being an old man, I guess. But I will say this: that live action series, I cried a couple of scenes because I mean, it was amazing. I think it deserves every accolade it's getting. Um, and I hope that it has multiple seasons and continues the story of what it really, because it's not a story of pirates being bad guys. It's a story of pirates are based on the adventures you have with your friends, following and chasing your dreams. And it was heart touching and just so good. And the actors that they have playing the different characters, based on some of the things I'm reading about and listening and hearing about in the news, are making me like them even more. The character or the actor who plays Sanji, the blonde haired chef character, uh, literally started taking like martial arts classes to prepare for the role, and now does martial arts. He earned his like black belt in taekwondo and everything, and then he literally has made martial arts a part of his lifestyle now. And he took cooking classes to better do the scenes where he's doing chopping and plating and just everything that involves in the art of cooking, because it is a art. I don't care what anybody says, cooking is an art, especially at the level in which he's portrayed as his character. And the fact that he would stay dressed as Sanji and cook for the production team off camera is, I don't know, it speaks volumes to that individual's character, right? Because one of the things that a person can do that is, in my opinion, one of the most um, giving of oneself is feed somebody. If you feed somebody, you're putting a lot of yourself in that process, and um, the fact that he's doing it for the entire production crew at at a level of apparently he's become very, very good. So they're eating at a level in which you normally wouldn't get on a production set. You're going to get lots of options on the craft table or craft services and stuff, but it's usually like single service, like granola bars and stuff like that. But this guy is killing it, and I've seen a bunch of other like reaction videos where they got to see the trailer for the first time, and they're all getting all emotional and stuff, and that is just good stuff. And so yeah, One Piece, the live action is a total win. And I hope that it continues. And it was so disheartening in my, and one aspect is my son, who loves the animated series, does not particularly care for the live action.
A
Um,
purist. He's just
he,
a purist, you know.
he yeah, and he is portraying himself as a purist, but I want him to watch it, and I hope that he'll,
He'll come around. Hopefully, it's good.
you know,
It is really
it is really
done,
good.
produced well, and it
Yeah.
actually enticed me to buy like the manga. You know, like it was like
Hmm.
a 1, 2, 3 set just to give it a shot. You know,
Yeah,
I don't think I've read manga since the '90s, but yeah.
absolutely. I used to read Shonen Jump, the magazine, when I was stationed in Japan.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, they would have English versions for the service members that you could buy right next to the Japanese versions that obviously a lot of us couldn't read. So it was cool. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, food is the gift of life, and the fact that that young man is taking time out of his schedule and himself, giving of himself to the crew and the production team is, like I said, I think it speaks to his character. Um, so I'm going to enjoy my thoughts on that, because it's just it's a beautiful thing, you know. So yeah, win-win on that. I also, but on the flip side of another show that I recently watched, like one of the things I love about Netflix is you can watch it at 1.5 speed, so you can just zip through some things. But after like the first 30 seconds of watching and listening to it at that speed, your brain and your eyes kind of adjust to it. So it, right. But I watched Disenchanted, um, which is the animated, um, Matt Groening, the guy who made The Simpsons. He has an animated, more adult themed. When I say adult, the humor is more adult themed, right? There might be some cursing and stuff, but it's in his art style, like The Simpsons. But it takes place in like a fantasy world. And the final season recently dropped, and I watched that, and I was really happy with that show too. It had some pretty funny moments in it.
I like all this stuff. Futurama was always good.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
Futurama is great.
the future is now. You know, I love all that stuff.
Oh, The Future Is Now is from Time Machine. Did you ever watch that? I can't remember. Guy Pearce.
The Time Machine, like the old school, like
Yeah,
book.
the
Yeah, yeah.
movie.
That was good. That is a kind of an underrated movie, the Guy Pearce one for sure. I even
Yep.
like the old school, The Time Machine.
Oh yeah, the old school one was great. But again, a thing that I thought was super funny about the Time Machine with Guy Pearce was it came out in a time on in movies and shows where the villains were these like albino white ghost-like creatures, right? So the wraiths in the Time Machine, especially the high intellect one that was like the main antagonist in the ends part, was a very ghost-like, uh, like deathly pale white hair. And then at the same time, Hellboy 2 came out, and Prince Nuada and his sister, the elvish heirs, were the same, just stark white, bleached white hair. I mean, great characters, great antagonists. So there was that one. And then you also had the Wraiths from Stargate Atlantis. They all look like they were from the same race. It's like, that's weird. And I want to say the Star Trek movie came out right around that same time too. And there was that female that had the tattooing,
Oh
and
yeah,
she was also. It's like the makeup team that did it was the same one for all productions or something. I don't know. It was weird.
they're like, wait, what do you got left? We got some powdered wigs. You know, it's like,
Perfect.
Yeah. Sci-fi.
Sci-fi. Yeah,
yeah.
they're sci-fi.
That
They
is.
just had a lot of titanium on it.
It is
Yeah.
weird how movies come out in twos like that too, though. You know, and it was like
Hmm.
Dante's Peak and the volcano or something. You know, and it was like
Right.
Armageddon and what was the other one that was just like that? But they always like come in twos. You know.
Wasn't it the core?
Yeah, it was the core, right?
Yeah.
Same movie.
Yeah. Instead of being an outside influence for destruction, it was the inner core of the earth.
Yeah, yeah,
But
those
we
are
had
always.
but we have to send a specialized team of scientists and engineers to the core to restart it, uh, to get it moving again, or the Earth is just gonna rip itself apart. One of the movies like that, those post-apocalyptic movies that I really liked was it Day After Tomorrow, the one where like had a flash freeze ice age again.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that
I
was decent. When they're
yeah
in
I
the
like.
library in New York and the snow
Yeah,
comes in. Yeah, that's fun.
yeah.
There's a lot of those, yeah, apocalyptic movies that came out
Hmm.
right around that time, the early 2000s.
Yeah. Well, everybody was playing off the whole Y2K
Yeah,
thing, and
yeah.
then they just kind of bled over into the early 2000s concepts. You know, at least that's my thought on why it was like that.
They didn't get greenlit till after
That's right.
after 2000, right? So
Right.
yeah, they were sitting on these scripts. They needed to do something. They added a couple white powdered wigs, and yeah,
Yep. And they
there
went
we
with
go.
it. Exactly.
I love it.
It's so funny. I'm curious as to what the next run of movies are that are going to do that. In gaming, I don't know if a lot of folks notice this either, is in the board game and tabletop space, there are waves of uh, like themes or genres that hit at the same time. Like one year, all the hot games are based around cats, right? And then the next year it's zombies, and the next year it's cats again, and then the next year it's charade or drawing games, and the next year it's cats again, because it's always going to be leapfrogging cats. Cat games will
Floating kittens.
yeah, exploding kittens, kittens in a blender, uh, cat on a hot tin roof. There's all sorts. uh, it's so funny. There's cat lady. There's here kitty kitty. Um, there's so many cat genre uh, games, and then zombies, and it's
Cthulhu was a
wild.
hot one for a long
Oh
time, right?
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
before like Call of Cthulhu being the first, but then I got into it. I liked it. That kind of got me into some of the cooperative gaming. But it did get a little crazy, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
Tangent
Cthulhu.
Cthulhu, you know.
Well, Cthulhu went crazy when it became public domain. As soon as it became public domain, everybody's like, "I have a Cthulhu thought," and they put that thought to the tabletop, and it was like just a flood of it, which is
Yeah.
great because it's a great IP to play in, right? The idea of an elder god that wants to come into our realm to just destroy all of humanity, and that there are cultists that want to bring him into this, bring the elder god into this space, is super cool. And then, of course, there's the whole concept of the investigators, the people that are kind of blessed with a third eye, if you will, into the occult, and are champions of light to fight back the potential threat of Cthulhu.
Yeah, the investigators are kind of a fun thing, right? And then
Yeah.
it's kind of the antithesis of D&D a little bit. I think we talked about this before,
Hmm.
that as you might be working with some occult things, or some magic, or you see a monster, your
Hmm.
insanity happens and you actually get weakened. So your
Yeah.
character's actually getting the opposite, getting weakened,
Hmm.
getting kind of frail. Um,
Yeah. The concept of sanity points or sanity loss is kind of neat too,
mhm.
because how do you play that, right? As you're losing your mind based on your interactions with the occult and the supernatural and Cthulhu's influence on our realm. It's super cool.
Yeah, that Cthulhu Death May Die is kind of a cool mechanic on that. As
Hmm.
your insanity tracker goes up, you get special abilities, right?
Okay.
Um, so you can your character somewhat gets stronger, but
Oh,
if you do go completely insane, you die. Um,
right.
but yeah, you do get a little stronger. You have a special ability you can do, roll a couple more,
Hmm.
specialty dice or something like that, which
Yeah.
is kind of a fun thing. But that one kind of flips it on its head. It's almost that um, uh, pulp Cthulhu type thing where you can
Hmm.
actually, swing and punch and, try
Yeah.
to knock the elder gods off. But yeah, the cosmic horror stuff is
Yeah.
fun.
It's super fun. I also like that it takes place in a pulp esque verse, uh, much like Indiana Jones is a pulp esque, or the Phantom, or
Oh yeah,
all those
shadow type.
Shadow 1940s themed writing styles, is really fun.
The noir type.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
noir. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's brilliant. And I love it when you get to see like live action role play sessions, or live play sessions where people dress up as their Cthulhu era characters. And I mean, I don't know where they're getting these costumes, if they're making themselves or going to a thrift shop that's like in the middle of like, I'd have to say like Nebraska, right? Because they go in the middle of Nebraska. Nobody's like hunting down the thrift shop in this small town. And you go in there and you literally can, for $25, deck yourself out to look like a dapper 1940s person,
Yeah,
male,
20s,
female.
30s, 40s. It is
Yeah.
interesting because they like the lapels were bigger again, so there's
Hmm.
sometimes you can get some like 70s looking ones and kind of pare
Yeah.
it down. A lot of tweeds and twills and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's so cool. Someone with the jacket with the patches on the elbows.
Like a professor. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I love like all those characters too. Like one's a librarian that stumbled across some
So
sort of ancient tome and gleaned some magic from it, or um,
right.
the
The-
Miskatonic University professor that was studying some
yeah.
ancient relic.
Yeah, and found themselves reading some occult book, and through the reading of that knowledge, they get tweaked a little bit. They lose a bit of their sanity, but because of that, they now are almost a medium to the whole concept of the paranormal world. Right? It's so cool. I love it.
Yeah, it's fun
There was
stuff.
a video game that handled that insanity mechanic really well. It was called Amnesia: The Darkness Descent, and you'd go crazy as you saw the eldritch orders and the weird stuff around you. And the only way you get more sane was to actually solve puzzles.
Mm,
Oh, nice.
that is fun. That is fun.
Yeah, games are great. Do you think so? Everybody out there watching, do you think games are great? Because if you do, you're obviously on the right channel, because that's what they do here at Gen Con TV, is talk about games, the game industry, right? There's so many good programs on this channel. So if you're watching and you haven't done so yet, hit that little heart, hit that little bell, so that you get notified when anything goes live here on Gen Con TV, so that you don't miss out on all the amazing programming that exists. They've curated some really fun content with some really fun characters and casts. So you know, even though Gen Con happens once a year, it happens every day here on Twitch. And if you aren't using it and yet have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe to a Twitch channel using your Amazon Prime. It's not a ad cost to it. It's just one of the benefits of having Amazon Prime. And if you use it here on Gen Con TV, it benefits the channel and allows Peter to do even more, right? Um, to bring even more content, higher production value content. Uh, so yeah, hit that subscribe button too. That would be awesome. Because, like I said, there are some amazing programs on this channel, especially when it comes to like Actoroki or the interviews show with Rem Alternus or the Shadowrun stuff that Rem Alternus is doing. And then you've got the brothers Murph and shoot, here's the thing. I don't even know everybody that's on here. There's a lot. And I think Friday Table Talks, which is where it's like a news program where they talk about things going on in the tabletop industry. Uh, so you're going to get your news, entertainment, weather, and sports. Hashtag news.
Yeah,
Uh,
full rundown is what Monday. There's Peter versus the Machine, and then
yeah.
board games with Brother Murph, right? And then there's Dress to Quest. Those guys always do a great job at that.
Oh yeah, they're one of the ones I'm talking about when
Yeah,
it comes
yeah,
to doing costuming for their characters. It's like what? That is amazing.
yeah. Nathan Kit Kennedy is the GM on that one, and then Indie by Night.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, vampire.
yeah, yeah. So that's
Nice.
fun. Then there's that Path of the Brush show,
Yep.
right?
Rumor has it.
Uh, Actoroki, right? You're talking about
Yep.
Blood on the Clock Tower.
Okay. So I don't know what that one's about, but I love that name.
Yeah,
Blood on the Clock Tower.
hosted by Skills.
Okay.
Social deduction game proves that death is not the end. And Thursday
Room.
there's your roll with Rim, right?
Okay.
Alternus, and then Friday there's the
Yep.
table takes game night, and then there's Sarah's table, and then GM
Yeah.
Sarah Moore spotlights indie RPGs.
Yeah. I've actually been on Sarah's table
Mhm.
before. We played a game called The Excellence by Ninth Level Games,
Sounds
and
excellent.
it is. Chris and Heather O'Neill over at Ninth Level Games made this really adorable micro RPG, if you will. It's just a little pamphlet book, but micro RPGs just set the stage. They obviously can bring you hours and hours and hours of entertainment. And in this one, think Adventure Time, but only the princesses from Adventure Time. So you take on the role of a different thematic princess, and you go on an adventure with other princesses. And every princess has like a sidekick um, that is an animated or can communicate with them and do things with them. Uh, when I played it, I was the maple syrup princess. And I had a bucket because, when you tap the tree to get the syrup, you have a bucket that collects the syrup. And I I had just a menagerie of different brands of maple syrup that I had bought as props, and each one of them gave me different potential abilities. Like I had this jalapeno infused maple syrup. And it's over by the refrigerator here at the studio. I have a bag full of maple syrups that was for that particular game. And so in the game, I would drink. Yeah, I probably had diabetes, but I took a big swig of this jalapeno, and I could breathe fire, maple syrup fire, which is just napalm because it's super sticky fire, right? Uh, but yeah, it was so fun. Sarah did an amazing job as the GM. Uh, Gave us a really entertaining uh, story to play in, and the other players, one played a professional wrestling princess, and the other one was like a rock star princess, and it was super fun.
Oh, that does sound fun.
Yeah, and then was is that does that uh, eat up all the lineup? Is that everybody that has a show?
So far on the current schedule, yeah, that's what it looks
Okay.
like.
Okay. I'm hoping that there's going to be some new content coming because there's slots available. I'm sure to throw in another live play. I would actually love to bring the Stormcrest Chronicles to Gen Con TV.
Yeah,
Uh,
you were talking about that a little bit, and I know
yeah,
the background of it, but yeah, maybe
yeah,
the viewers would be interested to hear some of it.
yeah. So the Stormcrest Chronicles would be a homebrew D&D campaign um, that takes place in my world, that where the half of it, the northern hemisphere is completely encased in a ice age scenario, and a lot of high seas adventures because the Stormcrest is a ship, and the players are crew members. So think away missions, right? The ship represents, like the Enterprise, and every episode is a new away mission that takes place while the world is going through whatever it's going through with the ice age and all this stuff. And but every episode would be four different players, so it'd be a whole different team of crew members from the Stormcrest going on an away mission, if you will, in a high fantasy D&D esque world where if you watched the last episode, there would be wyverns.
I almost forgot about that. I buried that in
You
my
buried that nightmare imagery. But yeah, that's the Stormcrest Chronicles. Um, but we didn't get some intel from you in regards to Star Wars in earlier there, Mark. Who's your favorite non-core character in the Star Wars universe?
If it's non-core, doesn't mean it can't be its main character, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Hmm. Uh, I would think about it a little bit. You guys have brought up Rogue One. Doesn't it's like a Star Wars story, which I think really fed into what is now happening in the Star Wars universe. But that is one of
Mhm.
my favorites. I mean, 4, 5, 6, of course. Um, it's weird because you can't find the reboots on, you can't find the old school ones. You still have to have on VHS because they're not reissuing like the old special effects that we grew up with.
Mhm.
But yeah, Rogue One, I was really enamored with. I just thought the storytelling was great. It didn't
Yeah.
have like too much, really didn't have like comic relief in that same quirky way. It was very gritty.
Yeah.
Um,
It was a uh, ground pound movie. There wasn't a lot of there was no lightsabers until Vader shows up at the end, right? For the most part,
mhm.
right? So
And that played right into 4, yeah.
it did. Yeah. Oh,
And
K2SO.
he's boarding, right?
Right. Right. Yeah. As he's boarding the vessel that has Princess Leia on it.
Hmm.
Yeah. So who's your character though?
Is it Guido? Is it, who's
We the one that Han Solo shoots in the cantina?
is he the little kid from Phantom Menace?
He
You
is
know,
not. That's just a Rhodian. I think that's the race is
Will's
a
just cracking
Rhodian.
up over there.
He
But you know
is.
what I mean? Like
That
I was
got
like,
dark,
is
dude.
that you know uh,
What this is
all
telling me
grown up?
is
Why is
what
that
this
so
is telling
funny?
me is you're not a Star Wars guy, are you?
Who, me?
Yeah,
I enjoy Star Wars. I guess I'm not as deep. I don't read the novels.
that's okay. Yeah, I mean, uh, I do like that they've given some nods to the Heir to the Empire novel series by Timothy Zahn and the Ahsoka show so far. They've literally said Heir to the Empire in regards to Thrawn, and Thrawn first appeared in the Heir to the Empire novel, which I thought was super cool that they kind of gave that nod saying, "We see you, Timothy." you know,
Yeah, and at the beginning, they said that they weren't going to use those novels, well,
yeah,
any of the novels.
yeah. Well, I think what they did is they annexed the expanded universe, right?
Well,
Only
canon
to
canon anymore, right?
yeah, only to rewrite it in its own way for themselves. right? Because if they weren't going to use expanded universe, they wouldn't have used Thrawn at all, right? But he's such a great villain, right? An intellectual villain, like a truly well written intellectual villain is awesome.
Yeah, scarier Moff Tarkin.
Oh,
Nice.
yes. I mean, the fact that he, through the art of a culture, he can kind of come up with how they engage in battle and the tactics that they would more likely use based on their artistic endeavors. That's freaking cool.
It makes you not trust people who go to the museum.
Oh, 100%. It's like, what are you studying? I'm studying the ways in which all my enemies will engage with us. Ah, you're a star child. Get off our planet.
I'm going to conquer the Byzantine Empire anytime.
Right?
Would you take Bosk as a submission?
I would.
All right. I had him. I had the toys still. Like we, I was
Mm.
a little young when the toys came out, but like when Empire and
Mm.
or Return, like that wave, was
Right.
still. My brother had them, but yeah, we had like Lando and Bosk, and you'd have like just the random ones. And you go to your one like neighbor kid's house, and you had everything, and you got to play with the Tom Tom and stuff. But,
Right. Yeah, when we were kids.
right.
Yeah.
But that's the one. Yeah, Bosk is kind of like But I
Okay.
feel like I don't know. There's a lot of good ones out there, and a lot
Sure.
of these characters that were side pieces are now like Boba. Like he was kind of a
Yeah.
non main one. Now he's huge, right? So
Yeah.
those are that would have been my kind of like main go to.
Okay.
And like you said Han Solo, the rogue of the group,
Yeah.
but
I mean, Han Solo is a great character. There's no doubt about it. You know, um, I think I gravitated really heavily for a long time towards the bounty hunters. So
mhm,
IG-88, Bosk,
mhm.
um, Dengar, right, and Boba Fett. Dengar's the one that had like the bandage wraps and supposedly helped rescue Boba Fett from the Sarlacc pit, right?
Oh, okay.
And so yeah, I've always thought that the bounty hunters were a kind of a cool little grouping, but in real life, there is a race of characters from Star Wars that if I get if I see them and they're like cheap to pick up, I'll buy every one of them and I'll hide them around my house or my studio or the store that is opening on Friday. And it's Jawas. I love Jawas. I can't when someone cosplays a Jawa, I get all giddy and happy inside because they are just the worst. You know, I especially love their how they are interpreted in the Mandalorian series with the junk
For the
mechanic
dirtbags they
lady.
are, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, we're looking for this space engine piece. Do you think you could get us one? Ah, Houdini, Houdini. And then like 3 scenes later, they've got it, and then you find out that somebody at some other spaceport is like, what happened to my ship? They are just the junkers, man. The scrappers and junkers that have no moral compass, and I
Love
love it. I think they're
anything
so
so fun.
funny. So, yeah, I'm gonna put. I actually took one to the store today, a loose action figure of a Jawa, and I'm gonna hide it in the store. And if someone can find it over this weekend's grand opening, they'll get probably a gift certificate or something. And they're like, "Yep, there's something in the store that I'm a big fan of, and if you can find it, uh, I'll give you a hint. Utini."
I
So,
love all the stuff from the cantina too. Like Deveronian, like the devil looking guy that's popped up over there.
yep,
Where Doctor Cornelius, I think is like you won't like him if you make him angry or whatever.
right.
Like those
I'm
guys,
I'm wanted in 5 systems.
like
Yeah.
those guys, they didn't. They were like, hopefully this movie is okay and we can make some other ones. Like these are just
Yeah.
characters they made. Lucas
Yeah.
is just like drafting up in his basement or something like that. Yeah,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
they want him to have like white hair and be kind of albino, but they didn't. They're ahead of their time. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, they knew what they were doing. The
Yeah,
I like that. I like that scene when Luke goes into the cantina and he does bump into Walrus Man, and he's like, "Oh, excuse me," and he's like, "He don't like you. I don't like you either." And they did a skit. It was probably Robot Chicken or something, where that Walrus guy is just you know a normal guy going to work, stops off after work into the cantina,
I did see
gets
that.
gets bumped into it, and he's like, "Oh no, no worries," but you can't understand him because he speaks a different language, and there's
Sounds
no
angry, but yeah.
there's no universal translator. And then that guy is like, his buddy is like, "Oh, we got this. We're gonna act tough," and he's like, oh, he gets his arm chopped off. It's like that is so funny. Uh, I love when they do stuff like that. Robot Chicken has done some amazing Star Wars parodies over the years,
The
and that's
Family Guy ones as well were pretty funny.
oh yeah, for sure. Well, what's also kind of funny is I get one of my favorite trivia questions from Family Guy, and so I'll ask the audience, the people watching, who was Luke Skywalker's um, co-pilot or gunner in the Hoth battle in Empire Strikes Back? What was that character's name?
Dak.
Dak. Yeah, it's a great. Uh, like I didn't know who it was until the episode of Family Guy where they're reenacting, and Dak says, "I feel like, yeah, I'm feeling great. I feel like I could take on the Empire all by myself." And he's like, "Oh, Dak's got it. Thanks, Dak. Go do it." I was like, brilliant.
Oh,
Before the whole started up, we were talking about Wedge Antilles, who is a fan favorite. Love him.
Yeah, and Wedge is Ewan McGregor's uncle.
hmm,
So again, back to that whole, I don't want to call it nepotism in that regard, but the family that plays in the force together stays together. It's kind of cool,
right.
right?
If you're
The
in the
unc
cast of Train Spotting, you might get a spot.
Oh yeah, and another thing that's kind of cool is in the original trilogy, besides the main characters of Luke, Han, and Chewie, R2D2, C3PO, right, um, and Leia, the only other character that really is seen in every movie is Wedge, right? He's another like OP badass. They just overlook. He's so badass.
He's the
Anyway,
only, he's the only one who could put 2 Death Stars on his ship,
oh yeah, he's so good.
and he
So
was red too.
Red 2. Okay, Red 2 standing by. Um, so we should probably give a big shout out to our sponsors for the show, right? It's about that time. So on that note, big thank you again to Ultra Pro for being a sponsor, the Army Painter, especially with their new Speed Paints 2.0. Go give them a check at your friendly local game store, or you can check it out at thearmypainter.com. Also to Mats by Mars. If you need a play mat for your for your tabletop war games and miniature skirmish games, check out matsbymars.com. They're the ones that are also making our paint mats here that you can see under the camera, under the overhead. Also to Game Envy, who makes the brushes that we're using, these wonderful Phalanx synth brushes. They also make the water cup, the collapsible water cup that we're using, and they have what's called the hobby handle that you can use when you're painting smaller miniatures, character miniatures, and it's a great device. Um, am I missing anybody, Will or Mark? Thunderford Studios, Gen Con TV for allowing us the platform to come out here and paint miniatures with everybody and everything. It was very kind of Peter to throw the olive branch out and say, "Hey, would you like to paint on our channel?" And when you're asked to paint on Gen Con TV, I would have to say, "Yes, yes, Peter, I'd love that." Thank you. Um, But again, and thank you for everybody that's watching and has even if you're just stopping by and going, what's going on over at Gen Con TV? Thank you for stopping by. Thanks to everybody that finds interest in this. And if you haven't picked up a brush yet, go do so. Become a member of the path. Walk the path with us, because it is awesome to be able to take something that's gray plastic and just add more gray to it. uh, but no, painting is one of the joys in life for me because it allows me to find some calming moments in a chaotic world, right?
Moment of
Um,
zen.
yeah, it is a moment of zen for me and for many others. And it's funny as I've realized again over the last few years that there are two different paths when it comes to the path of the brush. The path of zen, where the process of painting a miniature, be it large like this or a character miniature or anything, is very zen, very calming. But then there are individuals that it literally infuriates them to paint, it, for whatever reason, and no shame on them. Uh, it's just, not everything is for everybody, though it is for everyone to do, or it's available to everyone, but it's just not for everybody, and that's okay. Um, but we'd love to have everybody at least try the broccoli, right? At least try it once.
I think it's cool you're painting the terrain as well because it's such a critical part of a tabletop war game, right?
Ooh,
Um,
yeah.
it's like, I mean, you could play with a box and a pop can and whatever, but when you've got like thematic, scenery, it's pretty great.
I think it's funny you bring a pop can and a box because based on the last heist we did, that's what I used to represent the buildings in which we
You
were.
can do it.
It's like, what's that? That's a bottle cap. Who's the bottle cap? Nope, it's just a bottle cap, Mark.
Or that's a peanut shell. Don't worry about that. Actually,
Right.
pass me some more of those peanuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always kind of funny. Or like when people run out of minis and they're playing a D&D swarm scenario and they're like all these dice and then they can like use the dice as like
Yeah.
maybe they have 2 hit points where and they count them down and it's like that works, but sometimes it's confusing.
Yeah, it can be confusing, but again, no shame on anybody that's what you have to use because if you got to do that, you got to do it. But you're right, painting terrain for a tabletop game uh, definitely helps it with the immersion,
Hmm.
right? Like if we were to play Star Wars Shatterpoint without the terrain, and it was just again cardboard boxes and uh, toilet paper and it's the cylinders from the center of a toilet paper roll or from a paper towel roll to represent tunnels or pipelines and stuff, it would still give you something. But doing this, it gives you the full immersion because, like I said, even if you didn't know it was a Star Wars thing, just looking at this, you'd probably go, "Oh, that looks like something from Star Wars."
Hmm.
Because I can't think of too many people that really haven't seen Star Wars, right? So,
You have to try not to. You have to
right,
actively try not to see it, right?
right, or because it is literally in your face always. Yeah, I think it's probably one of the most quoted for franchises in history. It has to be, right? I can't think of too many shows that someone didn't say, "Did you just try to use the Force on me?" And I'm like, "What? You think you're Yoda or something? What are you talking about?" Or like a lot of shows have used Star Wars quotes as well, which I think is funny. Is it James Spader who did? He had a show where he was a lawyer, and he would use Star Wars quotes in it. Not every episode, but frequently. And I was like, this is amazing.
All right.
Was that on him, or was he at the whim of the writers?
It's always the whim of the writers for sure, but the fact that they would write it in is super fun. For I think because it is one of the largest fandoms to ever exist. Um, though I will say this: the anime arena is really like steamrolling in, right?
I'm looking at top 10 most. This is whatever list. This is off Collider, but Casablanca, right?
Oh, as far as like one-liners, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. The Dark Knight has some in there. Then you get The Godfather. You know,
Right.
you
Where
know.
is she? For Dark
Mean
Knight.
Girls, ironically enough. And then we're getting into Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope.
Yeah.
What else we got? The Princess Bride. I think we all
Oh
share love for that.
yeah. Yeah, that does have a lot of quotable material in it,
Pulp
especially the
Fiction.
whole inconceivable, and it
Mhm.
don't mean what you think it means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Monty Python, and the Holy Grail, Knights at
Mhm.
Sydney, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Um, the Room. I don't agree on that one.
I have I can't think of anything that is quoted from that, but again, I never watched that movie,
Yeah.
so
The
someone
Big
could say,
Lebowski.
um,
Maybe
maybe I could see like I'm the dude. I could see that, or what was the one?
Jesus doesn't roll on Chevy Chavis or whatever.
No, the big guy that was Roseanne Barr's
Danny or Donnie.
Donnie, and he's just yelling at Buscemi's character all the time. Shut up.
Yeah, it was good. Did I love it
Yeah,
like everybody else? Not, it's good though.
yeah. But
Uh,
Star Wars, so there's so much from Star Wars that is quoted and referenced, and
100%.
I would almost say Indiana Jones also has a lot. A lot of people do you know um, call him Dr. Jones, doll. I say that a lot. In what context? I don't know.
I wish you'd stop saying that to me. It's awkward
Yeah,
now.
it's
But
call him Dr. Jones, doll.
yeah, like when I was a kid, the nerdy thing, my buddy Andy and I, we would like put on Indiana Jones skits for his like sister and his mom or whatever, you know what I mean? And it would be Temple of Doom. We thought that was the coolest movie of all time.
Kalima.
And we
You
would do the whole scene where they're like at the
re-
restaurant and you have the lazy Susan, and he's like he's like giving him a diamond or whatever, and he's like, what's that? And he's like, antidote for the poison I put in your drink. We'd always do that like that
so
one. And
good.
because every time I see his mom and sister, I'm like, remember that time you used to do that? I was like, man, it's super embarrassing, but it was awesome. Yeah, we do.
Yeah, it's so good. Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
I recently watched the Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull again.
What'd you think on the rewatch?
So I've watched it probably 5 or 6 times. I'm that guy
Mm-hmm.
that watches those kind of shows like that. And again, I think it's entertaining. It does you know a homage, if you will, to the whole ancient aliens theories, and I think that was kind of a neat little twist. I feel like they may have been a little nonchalant about it. Oh yeah, aliens, crystal.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it
Oh,
happens.
the other thing I thought was weird is like, who are the guys that were supposed to be the keeper of the secret type things? Like
Oh, like the Aboriginal guys or the
they look like
tribe
they kind of look like ninjas that would like crawl out of like the
out of the
double head.
gravestones.
Yeah, yeah. That happened like very quick. I was like, this could have been
Yeah,
a really cool
yeah,
thing, and happened just so fast.
yeah,
That
yeah.
was my only thing I didn't like. Was like that could have been a really neat scene. That's what I like about, um, like Raiders and stuff like that. When he's like that
Mhm.
whole Boulder scene and everything, that was like really cool, and it took a good chunk of the intro, right?
Yep,
Um, they could have been more like that, in my opinion.
yeah. I agree. I
But it's
think.
always easy to say from the seats, right?
Yep, 100%. If you're not behind the camera and directing and editing, we can say whatever we want because we don't know the pains and suffering that they had to go through to make that happen.
I have not seen
Um,
the new one yet.
Neither have I. I want to. I feel like the dial of time or whatever it's called, the
Mhm.
dial um, is just an anti-Kytherium mechanism, which was that like ancient computer calculator device that was found, and they really don't know what it was used for and how how it really works, but it absolutely is a mechanism that uses some sort of mathematical um, calculators thing going on. It's like ancient computer, if you will.
Like an abacus. And then you're like, your kid's a genius, and then you just take it and go, turn it,
Yeah,
joke. I know it's not the same.
similar. I mean, it has something going on with it that allows for high math to be calculated. So who knows? I haven't seen it yet. I want to, but I am at that point now where I just wait for it to come onto the streaming services. You
Yeah,
know,
same. Yeah,
so
and you gotta weed through the other stuff. And
yeah.
it's like the Mayan calendar. Like that was such a
Hmm.
unique, amazing thing. Then it's like, well, it's technically over, and no one cares about the Mayan calendar anymore. They threw it in the trash like a Star Wars calendar from 1997. You know what I mean?
Why would you throw a 1997 Star Wars calendar in the
It's
trash?
memorabilia. I picked that year specifically,
My God,
the re-release, right?
whoever I find out did that. Did you actually do that?
No, no, I think I probably cut it out and use
Yeah,
the art on my wall or
as
something.
little posters or something.
Little posters, yeah.
Yeah, that I can see. Phew, you almost gave me a aneurysm.
That'd be the opposite of Path of the Brush, the Zen moment we were looking for.
Right, you're stressing me out, Mark. You just want to have good memories of Star Wars. We don't want people throwing anything away. So in 1999, because that was the year that the Phantom Menace came out, Toys R Us came out with obviously the new. They were coming out with all the new toys, and at Toys R Us they had this large scale hanging Millennium Falcon. Right, it was huge, probably 6 foot in diameter. It was monstrous. Um, and when I used to own a comic and game store back in like 2011, 12 in North Carolina, and I had one of those hanging in my store. It was so cool. Um, and I also had back then Gale Force 9 used to make these terrain tables that they would take to conventions, right? And then who knows what would happen to them afterwards. Well, I was online, back then it was still like the dark ages of the internet. MySpace existed. And someone had these the Stark Industries Hero Clicks game table for sale. And I bought it. And we had that in my store. It was awesome.
Have to find some of those gems, get it back into the Hoplite games.
Yeah, or just have someone make a new gem.
Yeah.
I like that idea. But yeah, those are, you know, when you think about your friendly local game store, right? And I'm going to go back to Star Wars again because we are doing Shatterpoint. Certain things make a store a destination point, right? And that can be the community that exists at that store, the friendliness of the staff of the store, the availability of games, um, depth and breadth of games. But sometimes it's the weird things that just exist in the store, props and such. There's a store in Las Vegas, Nevada called Torpedo Comics. There are a couple things in that store that make it a destination point. One of them is the owner himself, if he's there. He is the drummer of a major band that people would know. Um, I believe it's System of a Down. I would ask one of Will or Mark to look up owner of Torpedo Comics. But I'm going to get to the Star Wars point here real quick. Inside that store, he has built into the ceiling a AT-AT walker as though it's walking through his store. There's the four legs are different pillars in the store, and the head is coming like through the ceiling down, pointing at the store, so you can walk underneath this. I mean, I don't know if it's life sized, but it is beautiful and it is so cool. So if you are ever in Las Vegas, besides Little Shop of Magic, which is a hobby store, really good store, check that one out. But check out Torpedo Comics, um, just for the AT-AT, and there's a drum set in there too that because he's the drummer, obviously for the band there, and he has had lots of other people come in and they sign the drum heads and stuff, so you can go and like see this really nice drum set that has
There
all
he
this.
is. I put
What's
him
that?
up there. There he is. There's the drummer.
Yep, there he
There's
is.
the proprietor, owner.
It's
of-
John. His name's John. He's a really cool cat, and yeah,
Very cool.
yeah, I would check out that store if you're ever in Vegas. And tell him Path of the Brush sent you. He'll go, "What's that?" uh, but
He's
yeah,
farting on no snare drum, Pip.
that's right. Dun dun.
Layer head action.
But my buddy Cannon actually works at that store. I've at Gamma Trade Show. I've played. We played Pathfinder 2.0 with Jason Bullman before it was ever, like as one of the first streamed live plays of Pathfinder 2.0 at Gamma, and my buddy Cannon got to play in it with us. It was super fun.
So, who are you excited to play with in Shatterpoint?
Well, as far as like who do I want to?
Characters, yeah.
So I'm really digging General Maul, so Darth Maul.
Mhm.
But I think his character title in the game is General Maul. So that it's very specific, right? Because it allows them to also come out with General Skywalker and Darth Vader and different iterations of timeline characters. So General Maul, I think, is going to be fun to play. I actually got to play in the demo. I got to play Anakin, and he's so freaking powerful. So, but Obi-Wan Kenobi is pretty cool, and so is Bo-Katan. So there's and of course Ahsoka is available there, and so is Count Dooku.
Dooku's cool.
Agreed. His lightsabers were brilliant designed with that weird like sloping angle to the handle, which gave it that weird gave it this. They described it that it balanced it in such a way that his spinning technique was like unmatched, which is why he like just handled Anakin in Attack of the Clones, and like handled him, chopped his arm off. It's like, yeah, boy, yeah.
And Christopher Lee, I mean, amazing.
Great, amazing actor.
Yeah.
One of the things I think is interesting about Christopher Lee, and we've only got a few minutes left, is he has had some of the most iconic death scenes in all of cinema. As Sauron, right? As Dracula, multiple iterations of Dracula. He knows how to die on camera. It's amazing. And there's a reason how he knows how to die on camera, is because he was like a legit assassin for the British government or something like that during.
No kidding.
Yeah, legit. So when he gets stabbed by Grimer Wormtongue on the tower and gets pushed off the tower, they were trying to tell him how to die, and he's like, "No, that's not how it happens. That's not what someone getting stabbed sounds like. It sounds like this." And they're all like, "You're right. You would know this," and that is unsettling. But yeah, an amazing actor. I was actually pretty sad when he died, and it we did like an in memoriam for him, because he brought so many icons to the film industry as far as characters, and represented so many great characters. I kind of feel like if I was of an age when like Vincent Price passed away, I probably would have had the same kind of reaction. So
Yeah, there was some rumors going around that the 007 books were based his exploits.
That would be amazing. That
That
would
would
put
be
him on
cool.
another like pedestal of status. That's wild.
He was friends with the author. That is known.
Mm. I wonder if he did have some significant influence in that. That would be
Some
very
Ian
cool.
Fleming, huh?
Yes, that's wild. Shoot. So yeah, this is going to be a long process to finish this terrain. And that the thing with terrain for everybody watching is it's not, if you're just doing hand brushing like this, it's going to take a while. But I think already it's already starting to look pretty cool and take on a life of a Star Wars piece with just adding that extra silver. But when we get in there and do the wash, I'll post up some pictures um, of the progress and completion. I need to actually show some pictures off of a one of the Galactuses that's being done right now. Jeff, our friend Jeff from the Michigan GT, is painting a Galactus that I gave him that we're going to give away in a charity auction at the Michigan GT this year in just a few weeks to raise money for, I want to say it's Table Wars charity, which
Yeah.
is for helps autistic kids get the resources they need in school. Um, so and helps families find those resources because the one thing about anything is if you don't know, you don't know. And there are lots of resources out there for all sorts of different things, and this organization really has an interest in providing for children that are identified as on the spectrum of autism, and ensuring that they get not just the resources of care, but also educating the parents on a lot of different things as well, in what it means to be a parent of a child with autism. And so we are big fans and supporters of that organization and the endeavors that they're undertaking to provide for that community. So uh, check out Table War Charities. Uh, and they're all big fans of the tabletop wargaming scene. They're usually at Adepticon and a few other shows. So, yeah, we're big fans. And on that note, we have come to our time. For everybody that stayed with us, even in the background and everything, we appreciate you watching. We appreciate you being here and being a part of the Path of the Brush. And we're hoping that you're picking up the brush and following the path with us. Make sure you hit that heart, hit that bell, subscribe to Gen Con TV. Every little bit helps in the building of our community. And we want to be a part of your community as much as we want you to be a part of ours. This has been Path of the Brush. I'm Rick. And until next time, you can lick the brush, just don't eat the paint.